Today's sutta is entitled Upanisa Sutta, the discourse on the necessary conditions, as 12.23. And this sutta is about the mundane and supermundane dependent arisings. I'll talk more about this in a moment. Huh? Now, this sutta is related to last week's study. Last week's the last sutta, rather, 2 weeks ago, the Nibbedika Pariyaya Sutta. So we often talk about dependent arising, right? So this sutta also mentions dependent arising, and there is what's called the forward sequence, where the Buddha or the formula will show how from ignorance the various steps will arise. And then there is what's called the reverse cycle, reverse mode, the patiloma. Anuloma is the forward cycle, and then you have the patiloma, the reverse cycle, with the ending of decay and death, and so on. And then one by one, all the links will, like dominoes, they will drop. Okay? You will see all this in the sutta. Now, what's interesting is we often hear the term dependent arising, but we never hear the term dependent ending. There's no Pali word for dependent ending. This is quite interesting. No? Because the word dependent arising, paticca samuppada, refers to how the various conditions arise. They arise as a set. They are interconnected. Everything that happens to us, there are many causes, many conditions. There is no first cause, one cause. They work together. The very fact how we are born into this world, there are many conditions that bring us. How you come to this class also, there are many conditions. If you just sit and think, you find there are many conditions that come together for you to be able to sit here peacefully now. And for me to teach you, is also many conditions to prepare the sutta and so on, right? So they all work with dependent arising. The most important aspect of dependent arising is in connection with suffering. So this is where we see the connection between dependent arising and the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths, right? So dependent arising, in other words, the cause and effect sequence, conditionality, deals with truth number one and truth number two. The suffering and the arising of suffering. So this is what dependent arising shows us in very interesting step-by-step detail. Again, we will look into this in a moment. And in this sutta also, there is the Upanisa. Actually, Upanisa here is a special term referring to both the arising as well as the ending. The Upanisa here refers to what's called the necessary cause. There are different ways of translating this. You can look at the introduction. The dictionary will explain to you lots of details. So if to choose the best translation that reflects the text. So we can translate Upanisa as immediate. We can translate as one coming after the other, and also what's called necessary condition. For example, suffering arises because there is ignorance. So ignorance is a necessary condition. So you have this Noble Truth 1 and 2, which is laid out as the 12 links of dependent arising. Then dependent ending deals with truth number 3 and 4, the ending of suffering, and then you have nirvana, if you like, the path, and then nirvana itself. So in theory, you see all this beautiful interconnection, theory and practice, right? So having said that, let's look at this sutta. page 102, the Upanisa Sutta, the Discourse on Necessary Conditions, as 12.23. Notice in verse 1, the Pali simply says dwelling at Savatthi. Savattiyang viharati. No? So here it's understood the Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi. So we didn't, in English, we make it a full sentence. The Buddha was staying at Savatthi.
Sister Wendy, the slide, sis.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes. Now, Ratna has done a very beautiful slide, which I'll just hold on first. Let me explain the section first part. We will look at the slide in a while, okay, in just a few minutes. Now, so the Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi, and then he addressed the monks. Section 2, Bhikshus, the destruction of the influxes is for one who knows and sees, I say, not for one who does not know and does not see. All right, here the Buddha is talking to the monks and is talking about the final goal, the ending of the influxes. Of course, if you overcome all the influxes, you are an arahat. The influxes is a set of 4 very powerful defilements. Sense desire, number 1, sense desire. Number 2 is existence, meaning believe in some kind of eternal life and desiring eternal life. And number 3, having all kinds of views. And number 4 is ignorance. So you can imagine these are very powerful, very profound defilements. So if all of these are overcome, you become an arahat. For us who are still unawakened, not even streamliness, first of all, we try to understand what these are. We deal with our negative desires by keeping the precepts. The precepts basically, with the precepts, we learn to say no to negative desires. So in other words, as lay people, one of our first practices is to convert or refine, if you like, our desires from negative desires to positive desires. We learn to direct our desires, what we want, to something positive. That's what the precepts teach us. And then kind of cut down what is not necessary, right? Simple life. That's another teaching about the moral virtue. So when you do that, you are dealing with sense desire. Now, they're called asava or inflow, also called outflow by many ways of translating it. Also called cankers. Cankers are really painful sores. But these are things that flow into our mind and body through the senses. We are distracted through our senses, in other words. So a lot of sense desire arises through the 5 senses. And of course, through the mind also. And the mind will give us ideas, oh, we want to live forever, we want to go to heaven, and we think that, wow, that's a beautiful place and we live there forever, and so on. That will give us wrong ideas. Then the third one is, of course, having all kinds of views, and we hold on to those views. What's wrong with having views? And there's nothing wrong, actually, to have a certain idea. We all have certain ideas about things. But we must remember the teaching of the parable of the water snake. Right? Whatever views we have, they're all provisional, they're all temporary. It's like looking at a mountain. Wherever you are at one side of the mountain, that's the shape, that's the kind of mountain you will see. That's one side only, but the mountain has got many sides. So you only have one view of things. So of course, the view is not wrong. It's there. You see the mountain. But it'd be very silly to say, oh, only my view of the mountain is correct. That's the meaning here. In other words, it's okay to have your own views. There are other people with their own views. You're seeing the other side of the mountain. So what we're doing is we say, okay, you have your view, I have my view. Let's just keep moving, and we can compare notes, things like that. So having views, in other words, is a way of learning, a way of discovering, and we progress from that. The idea is not to get stuck with it. To get stuck is to this idea of self, right? So there you see again, we apply this idea of letting go with views. With sense desire also you apply letting go of wanting something, and then the desire for existence. So we apply this idea of letting go for this false view of eternal life, and then when it comes to views also, we allow our mind to learn to be open. We can't help having views, but that view is for the moment. And then the last one is, of course, ignorance. And this is the most tricky one. Here refers to not understanding the Four Noble Truths completely, right? So this also takes time for us to grow, to let go and to grow. So here we see the Arhat, he has overcome all these four asavas, all these four influxes, and because of that, he's free. So here the Buddha says, if to overcome these four influxes, this is what you must know. Another thing the Buddha says here is, it's not for one who does not know, does not see, right? That means this negative language. So for someone to overcome the influxes, to be an arahat, or for them to even be a strong winner, you must know, you must see. Knowing and seeing, these are two things going on, right? So notice the Buddha doesn't just say you must know. It doesn't say you must see. Know and see, these are two aspects of wisdom, of learning, if you like. For example, let's say I know a place, all right? I know Singapore, I know Kuala Lumpur, right? So that's something I know in my mind. Then I make an effort to go there and I see the place, right? So I know it and I've been there also. So in other words, it's not just something theoretical, but an experience also. That's one way of putting it. So it's also like passing an exam. See? So you write your answer, you put in the full stop, but at which point have you passed your exam? It's hard to know actually. There is a moment, but it's hard to know. Perhaps when the results are posted on the notice board, and then you look at it, the moment you see it, say, oh, my name is there, I passed. You can say from that moment, you are, from the moment of seeing, you have passed. So there is the knowing and the seeing, that they go together in that way. So the Buddha often talk in this way, for one who knows and one who sees. You see the truth, and you also understand the truth. That's another way of looking at it. So we must know and we must see. And what must we know and see for the destruction of the influxes? So that's the section 3. And bhikshus, for one, knowing what, seeing what? Is there the destruction of the influxes? What is it that we should know? What is it that we should see? Now, for most of you, if not all of you, you look at this next list, there are 5 things here, beginning with form, and then there's feeling, perception, formation, consciousness. You at once to know, oh, these are the 5 aggregates. Né? And anyway, I have already put for you the name, the subtitle, the 5 aggregates here, so it's easier for us to understand. So here, the Buddha is telling us how we should train our mind. What is it we should really know? Such is form. Form is like this. Such is the arising of form. It becomes to being like this. Like this means you notice it. You notice it in you. Such is the passing away of form. Like form goes away. You can see it, let's say, when you burn a piece of paper, for example, or fire destroys something, right? So they say, oh, this is the passing away, cessation, ending of form, right? So what is form? Well, you can see it in 2 ways. One is you can say you see form as the 4 elements, earth, water, fire, and wind. You can see this in yourself. Earth are just solid parts of your body, like bone, skin, teeth, hair, and so on. So that's what is form. But that's physical thing. There's also dynamic aspect of form called resistance. When you sit on the chair, you feel your body pressing down on the chair. Resistance, that is also form. When you stand on the ground, you feel your foot pressing on the ground. That is also earth. I mean, not earth. No? Earth is resistance. So there are different ways to reflect on earth, and earth is part of form. Water is, of course, liquid. Most of our body is water, saliva. There's water in our being, in form. Fire is heat, decay. Our body is burning oxygen. It's also burning itself. We are getting old every moment. That is fire element, heat. And then wind. Wind is movement, motion. And of course, the gases in our body. And of course, the air we breathe in, the air we breathe out, give back. This air comes from the outside. Right? So that is form. So we reflect. That's one way. Such is form. We can just take one aspect and reflect on it. Arising of form, right? When the breath comes in, and say arising of form, and then the breath goes out, passing away of form. So these are different ways you can practice. The idea is to see this form in three aspects. Identify it, acknowledge it, and then see it as arising, see it as passing away. This is a practice of observation of impermanence. Otherwise, you can notice feeling. Such is feeling. Such is the arising of feeling. Such is the passing away of feeling. Since you have form, form gets in contact with outside objects, there is feeling. And some feelings you like, some feelings you don't like, right? And of course, in this case, thoughts also can give you feeling, right? So other than the four elements, and also the other thing is the five senses, right? Form also can be reflected by way of the five senses: eye, ear, nose, and tongue and body, right? So feeling can arise from any of these five senses or four elements. Four elements, five senses. Either one constitute or both constitute form, the body, if you like. And because there is the four elements, because that there are the five senses, there is feeling. Of course, you are also conscious. That's why there is the feeling. We'll come to that later. Yeah? So here the Buddha is explaining to us step by step. It's like you are watching a diagram, an atomic diagram. I see this, all the dots and circles, space. But the atom never behave like this. The atom is moving all the time. It's just a diagram to teach us. So these five aggregates are also like that. They are all the time moving. But here is a freeze frame diagram to help us study and understand it. That's why we cannot form views for too long. We learn and then we say, okay, what's next? And so feeling arises because we experience is one of the four elements or one of the five sense experiences. And then as we notice it, we say, oh, this is how it arises. And then it goes away. Then next one is perception. Such is perception. Such is the arising of perception. Such is the passing away of perception. This perception is another simple word, is recognition. Recognition. That means we already know something in the past. This knowing something in the past, it comes from number 5, consciousness. No? So we have memory, and we remember something in the past, and we look at something happening to us right in front of us, and then we base it on past experience. It's called knowledge. And if we remember that past experience is pleasant, then we perceive the present experience also in the same way. So we normally work like that. Unless we're really well trained in the Dhamma, and then we keep our minds very open, we're all the time watching everything like for the first time, and it's not an easy thing to do. So this perception is recognizing something before you. We often meet someone and then we judge this person by what we remember of this person, or someone who looks like this person in the past. But if we are calm and full of faith and wise, we just take this person as he is. Like a mother accepts her only child, like with loving kindness. You see, there's a beautiful teaching there. To accept things as they are in that sense, yeah? So then we begin to notice how we perceive things. Not easy in this case. But then we can have a glimpse of it. And we notice how this perception going away. Again, not easy, but we might catch a glimpse of it. So this is, at least we know there is this aspect of us that recognizes things, perception. Now we can do something more difficult. Such are formations. Such is the arising of formations. Such is the passing away of formations. In simple terms, formations refer to the karma of your body, speech, and mind. You form ideas. You form yourself through body, speech, and mind. You create karma, which acts on you in a good way or in a bad way, depending on your intention. So you notice how these formations arise. It's karma. Again, it's not easy, but it's possible to watch. Then you see it passing away. What you see here usually is the fruit, the result of the karma passing away. Well, in a sense, you can watch, let's say, when you watch anger arising, and then this anger wants you to hurt someone. You watch it, you say, oh, this is formation arising. I'm going to let it go, and then the anger goes away. Then you watch it going away. That's one way to practice watching formations. Now this number 5 is consciousness. This is the trickiest of them all. Such is consciousness. Such is the arising of consciousness. Such is the passing away of consciousness. You know, as people age, you can see a doctor. The doctor will ask you, did you ever fall down? You know? The doctors ask you, have you ever fallen down? Because as we grow old, we sometimes may lose consciousness. It may happen, especially when you are squatting down or you're lying down and then you get up and then suddenly things go blank. You know, there was once it happens to me once or twice. I begin to see like my blood draining away from my brain as it were, and then this vision is becoming dim. I say, oh no, I'm going to faint. So I stand or sit. Usually I will sit down very still and then just be aware, breathe normally, and then let the blood pressure build up again. So you begin to notice this consciousness. You say, wow, this consciousness is so fragile. It can go away, you know? Right? So you begin to see its impermanence. So when you're aware of such things, you also protect yourself. You also become more healthy. You learn things about your body and mind. So such is consciousness. Such is the arising of consciousness. Such is the passing away of consciousness. So you watch this consciousness. When you're going to fall asleep also, just relax. And then you can watch your breath if you like. And then you can sense you are conscious But if you're sleeping, you should not try too much to be aware of your consciousness, then you won't be able to sleep. Okay. Whereas, for example, if you're trying to sleep, the idea is to feel comfortable. As you lie down, just relax. You feel the softness of the bed and all the linen. And then just don't have the idea, I must sleep, I want to sleep, because you're thinking already. Let go of thinking, in other words. Just feel. To feel in this case is to take your consciousness away from the mind, so to speak. So you said something interesting here. You have the mind and you have this consciousness, right? So we have all these kinds of awareness in the Buddha's teaching, in early Buddhism. So you just feel the softness of your pillow, the comfort of the mattress and so on, or the peace of the breath, and then you fall asleep. Okay, so this is how understanding the aggregates can help us in different ways. And of course, if you go on practicing in this way, you're building up this training to let go of the influxes and in the end, even destroy it. This takes a long time, yes, and you have to start now. The longer you wait, the longer it will take. So the Buddha continues and said, thus, bhikshus, the destruction of the influxes is for one who knows in this way and sees in this way. There you are, knows in this way and sees in this way. So remember this teaching and practice accordingly, whatever you can. The knowledge of this destruction in regards to the destruction of the influxes has a necessary condition, I say. It is not without a necessary condition. Now there is a new idea, necessary condition. That means A must be present for B to arise. There is this condition. So now the sutta is going to talk about this. So this necessary condition gives the name to the sutta. All right. And now the heading is called supermundane or freedom cycle. Here the Buddha shows us how this mental freedom arises in us in a kind of a reverse sequence, starting with the freedom itself. So the Buddha is saying here, okay, see the Arahat, imagine the Arahat. The Arahat is free. How is he free? How does he get his freedom, right? So the question is put here, section 5. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for the knowledge of the destruction of the influxes? It should be said freedom, vimutti, freedom, mental freedom. Okay, here, be careful not to misinterpret this. It's not political freedom, it's mental freedom. Okay, freedom bhikshus has a necessary condition too. I say it is not without a necessary condition. So both have a necessary condition, but the Buddha is going through them one by one. The Arhat's knowledge depends on freedom, and freedom depends on something else. So it goes step by step like that. So the Buddha is going through telling us step by step how it works so that we can see the cause effect, cause effect. Now, number 6. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for freedom? What immediately brings us freedom? It should be said dispassion, viraga. Viraga. Now notice this word, I purposely put the Pali word there, viraga. You can see it has two parts, we, the prefix we, and then plus raga. Raga means lust. So the prefix we has a sense of various, all kinds, right? Dividing up. So this lust desire breaks it up, right, into so many parts. We want this, we want that, and so on. So the we also means away, like vinaya. Naya means to take away. Take away. The vinaya is something that takes away negative things from us, all the bad habits and so on. Here, viraga is taken in the sense of If you like, another meaning of we is it takes away the lust. The lust is pushed away. So here you can see in English, raga is passion in a negative sense. And then we is this, meaning no, push away, right? So you notice here, these Pali words, they're made out of many parts and so on, and you have to see what is the meaning that fits here best. So viraga here means letting go of desire. So this passion is another way of putting it. Okay. This passion, bhikshus, has a necessary condition too, I say. It is not without a necessary condition. So now the Buddha said, even this passion has its condition. What is it now? Now we go on to section 7. And what, bhikshus, is the necessary condition for this passion? How do you reach this point where you can, where you let go of all these desires, where you are free from all desires? It should be said, revulsion. Revulsion is a very powerful word. Some people don't like it. So I put in what's called an alternate translation, disenchantment. Some people are very scared of the word revulsion. They're shocked by it. That only proves the point. It shows that it's really powerful, something very powerful, and we don't like it. Nibbida. Here meaning we understand the world so well, we don't want to be cheated by it. We are revulsed by it. That's the meaning here. That's how the Arhat is able to let go of the world. Have nothing to do with sensual desire because he has this revulsion. But revulsion is not hatred. I mean, when you touch fire and you get burnt, I mean, of course you may get angry, because some people may even hate fire, but most of us won't do that. We just know it's not the fire's fault. That's the nature of fire. So the next time we will never put our hand into the fire. We know it's going to be painful. Say, oh, no, I'm not going to do it. That's called revulsion. Same thing with something smelly and dirty, and we don't want to have anything to do with it. We're revulsed by it. It's not that we hate it. We just don't have, it's not something pleasant. So we are wise in avoiding a situation where we get sick, for example. That also is revulsion, all right? So it's a kind of a, we know the situation and we're not going to get caught up with it. And this revulsion has a necessary condition too, I say. It is not without a necessary condition. The Buddha repeats all this because the Buddha wants us to really be sure everything is conditioned. All these stages are conditioned. Number 8. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for revulsion? What brings on this shock, this disgust with all these things which cause pain? It should be said, the knowledge and vision of true reality. Yatha bhuta jnana dasana. The knowledge and vision of true reality, bhikshus, have a necessary condition too, I say. They are not without a necessary condition. So here, when you see something and you understand it, the real nature, there is no point doing something bad because you have to pay for it, you have to get up. I mean, you have to, you'll get caught with the fruit of it. So you have that knowledge. You have seen that suffering before. So you won't do it because you understand it very well. So that's knowledge and vision. Now, the question is to simplify the sutta, how does knowledge and vision arise? So we go on to number 9. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for the knowledge and vision of true reality? It should be said concentration, samadhi. Concentration, bhikshus, has a necessary condition too. I say it is not without a necessary condition. So here we have to reflect. How does concentration bring knowledge and vision of true reality? Well, that's the thing about the suttas. The Buddha gives us this theory, this teaching, but doesn't give us all the details, because all the details, in inverted commas, must be earned. You can read volumes and volumes on this thing about how concentration brings knowledge and vision. It will earn you some money and titles, yes, status, respect, but it won't earn you awakening. You have to experience it for yourself. In other words, you have to meditate. You have to learn mindfulness. And with this concentration and mindfulness, you get this wisdom. One simple word for knowledge of and vision of true reality is wisdom. Now, before we go to the next step, we'll take a break because it's going to be something interesting now, something quite different that we usually would expect. Let's continue now. So just now we stopped at paragraph 9. And what bhikshu is the necessary condition for the knowledge and vision of true reality? It should be said concentration. Look at the highlighted words, okay? Concentration. Now, if you can see this diagram, you see concentration here, all right? And we started here just now, destruction of the mental influxes, and then freedom, dispassion, revulsion, knowledge and vision of true reality, concentration. And notice the arrows are going up, leading to arahathood here. This is arahathood. Now, so how does concentration arise? The sutta says through happiness. That is very interesting. Concentration arises through happiness. Remember that. Happiness here is sukha. Now here, there's something interesting I want you to watch in yourself. When I say happiness, an idea appears in your mind, and you start thinking about what it means to you. Happiness means what? Some people, going to the park. Some people going shopping, whatever, right? So we all have our own idea of happiness. Now, when you study suttas, you just say, happiness, okay, what is it? Be curious about it. Try not to project any ideas onto it. Just say, okay, what does it mean? Sukha. Sukha is the opposite of dukkha. Dukkha, difficult to tolerate. Sukha, easy to tolerate, nice to tolerate, something we like. Sometimes it is translated as comfort. Okay. Now, if you're in Thailand, you see on the wall the word in Thai, sukha. They pronounce it as sukha, but that's a polite word for toilet, a place where you go for your comfort. Okay, so you have different meanings, but in this context, sukha, happiness, refers to your body and mind at peace. When your body and mind are at peace, concentration arises. And then the Buddha asks, 11, and what bhikshu is the necessary condition for happiness? Answer, tranquility. It should be said tranquility, passaddhi. So here, tranquility refers to this peacefulness of body and mind, right? The stillness of body and mind. So happiness, in other words, is a kind of peace that arises from peace of body and mind. And then the Buddha asks, what about tranquility? What does it arise from? 12, and what bhikshu is the necessary condition for tranquility? It should be said, zest, piti, zest. This is very powerful joy. Zest bhikshu has a necessary condition too, I say. It is not without a necessary condition. So zest, joy, very strong joy. So this is where it comes from meditation, right? And then 13, the Buddha asks, and what bhikshus is the necessary condition for zest? It should be said gladness, pamoja. Pamoja, pamuja. Pamuja means to be glad, right? Pamoja, pamuja. Same word, I mean, same meaning, I mean. So it also can be a noun, gladness. So here, in other words, when you meditate, you feel sense of joy, very simple feeling of joy, that's called gladness. And then when this joy becomes stronger, becomes more, what shall we say, exciting, then you have zest. And when the zest comes down, it becomes tranquility. And tranquility becomes happiness. Happiness leads to concentration. And then you direct the concentration towards impermanence. And so on, right? So this now you're going back, I'm going backwards. Up this flow chart. No? But here we're going down, okay? So gladness, now the Buddha asks, what about gladness? 14, and what bhikshu is the necessary condition for gladness? It should be said faith, sadha. Faith bhikshu has a necessary condition too, I say. It is not without a necessary condition. So here you are. Wholesome conduct, faith, wise attention. Now here I've got this extra information to show it's like a turning point, see. Faith brings you this very simple joy, gladness. And faith makes you do good deeds, keep the precepts by keeping your mind in the right way. So they all go together, in other words. So here you see this same diagram, the same box with faith going to a new cycle with the word suffering here. So this is what we're going to look at now, all right? We're going to go back to the sutta now. Okay, let's switch back to the sutta. Okay, here we are. Look at number 15 now, paragraph 15. Okay, here we are. Now the Buddha is giving the teaching backwards from the Arahathood down to where we are. So now the mundane or worldly cycle. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for faith? Now here, I think you'll be very impressed and comforted to see what to hear what the Buddha has to say. Necessary condition for faith? It should be said suffering, dukkha. Or another way of putting it, suffering is the condition for faith. Well, isn't that wonderful? When we suffer, we learn. When we learn, then we have faith in that learning. That's called wisdom. What does it mean? We know doing something is not good. So we learn that. We have faith in that understanding. That's the meaning of faith here. Avijja pasada, wise faith. Faith through experience. So this is the kind of faith that comes from suffering. We have suffered, so we know what it is like to suffer. So we have faith of not falling into that kind of situation. So don't look down on suffering. Don't look down on situations where things are difficult. It will build up your faith if you are willing to learn. That's the meaning here. Now, the Buddha is going further back to a simpler level. What about suffering? Suffering bhikshus has a necessary condition too, I say. It is not without a necessary condition. Okay, let's see 16 now. And what bhikshu is the necessary condition for suffering? So now we come to the dependent arising. It should be said birth. Birth, in other words, birth leads to suffering. Because there's birth, there is suffering. Birth, bhikshus, has a necessary condition too. I say, it is not without a necessary condition. Of course, on a simple level, we can see the moment the baby is born, the baby cries. We say, wow, this baby is feeling pain, right? The baby has to come out through the mother's womb, through the mother's uterus. That's quite a painful experience. Some teachers tell us that it is so painful we forget it. But the point is, we are so newborn, we do not know things yet. So it's good that we don't really remember it. But the body reacts to it. The doctors and scientists will tell you, oh, these are evolutionary habits. It is this kind of habit that keeps us alive, right? We learn to cry. So it's a signal. It's a signal that will attract the mother's attention, and that this mother will feel compassion and run to this child and take care of this child. Human beings have that kind of habit. You hear a baby cry, you, especially as your baby, you go and see what you should do. So in that sense, birth brings suffering. All right. Now the question is, what brings birth? 17. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for birth? It should be said existence. Existence has a necessary condition too. I say it is not without a necessary condition. Now, jati is birth, coming into being. Existence here, you can simply take it as life, if you like. There is this ongoing thing called life, existence. It is there. Body and mind interacting. We have this being. Okay, existence, being, becoming, the different words for it. What about this existence? 18. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for existence? What brings existence into being? It should be said clinging, upadana. Clinging bhikshus as a necessary condition too, I say. It is not without a necessary condition. How does clinging bring existence? You become what you are by holding on to the idea, the concept, self-identity. We have that. I'm like this, I'm like that, we say, right? So we cling to ideas. We hold on to this concept. We hold on to our health. We want to make sure we stay healthy and we live long enough and so on. So we have this clinging. And where does clinging come from? What is the condition for clinging? That's number 19. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for clinging? It should be said craving, tanha. Now, tanha also means thirst, craving for life. Want to be this, want to be that, right? So craving is wanting something. Clinging means you got it and then you keep on holding on to it. Or we want more of it. That's called clinging. So craving, clinging. And then clinging makes you become what you are. That is bhava, existence. Bhava also translates as state. Okay, state of being. So you can see the connection already there, right? Now we go further down, 20. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for craving? How does craving come about? It should be said feeling. In other words, if you reword this, you say from feeling there arises craving. And this is not difficult to imagine, right? How do we explain it? When you feel something, if it brings back a good memory, you say, oh, I want this. That's craving. Of course, there's good craving, there's bad craving. When you know how to stop, that is good craving. So to that extent, it is good. If you don't like something, then there's the craving to push it away. It's also craving. So craving and the opposite, negative, hatred and so on, they kind of go together. Pulling and pushing, they go together. So this feeling, something, you feel something nice, you want it. You feel something painful, you don't want it. And then there's a neither, then you feel bored about it. All this is rooted in craving. So what about feeling? 21. And what bhikshus is a necessary condition for feeling? How does feeling arise? In other words, it should be said contact, phassa, contact. Contact bhikshus has a necessary condition. Two, I say, it is not without a necessary condition. So here, contact refers to sense impression. When the eye sees something, feeling arises. When the ear hears a sound, feeling arises. Same thing with smell, taste, touch, and also thoughts. So this sense activity, sense experience leads to feeling. What about this contact? How does it arise? How do you experience things? That's another way of putting the question. 22. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for contact, sense experience, sense contact? I mean. It should be said the 6 sense bases, salayatana, right? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. These are the 6 sense bases, or 6 senses, very simply. So through the 5 senses, we experience physical things. Through the mind, we feel, we notice ideas. And from there, from that experience or contact, you can translate contact, in this case, loosely as experience. There is feeling and so on. And from feeling, there's craving. And from craving, there is clinging. And from clinging, there is existence. So you can go the normal sequence again. Now we go back to the sutta. Then the Buddha asks, what about 6 sense bases? Where does it come from? How does it arise? 23. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for the 6 sense bases? It should be said name and form, nama rupa. Okay, this is a bit, we're getting a bit deep now, psychology of Buddhism. 6 sense bases are eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. How do we sense things? The easiest way to understand this is to see how a baby learns. The baby has all kinds of colorful toys, noisy toys. So the baby does not know anything at first, right? So the baby, notice the baby even tries to chew up things, right? The baby using all the senses. The baby holds the things, touch it, squeeze it, puts it in the mouth, and then it listens to sound and it looks at things. And then the baby can smell the mother smell. He knows it's the mother smell, and then it kind of feels very comfortable with the mother and so on. So all the senses begin to develop with the baby in that way. That's why we give toys to the baby. So how does this happen in terms of name and form? Form here refers to the whatever experience out there that is physical. Name is how the mind recognizes it. We see sound, form, sound, smell, taste, context, physical things. We see those are called form or matter, if you like. And then we name it. When we name it, then we remember it. That is why you notice parents and carers, they will give a baby a toy and then they will say some words. Yeah? It's a teddy bear, whatever. So they will mention a name and then the event, the sound or whatever. That's how the baby learns. That's how we also learn. You notice when we meet someone the first time, we'll just ask the person, what's your name? That's why we don't like it when people join up on Facebook or Telegram and they don't give their name or they don't give their real name. Then we sense, oh, this person is not being honest, is being hiding something, right? So first thing we ask is, what's your name? We want to know the person's name so that we can also connect, call the person, right? So the person is formed, and then you have this name, you connect with this person. So that's how we experience things, through nama and rupa. We see things out there, and then we give names to it. Sometimes the name is wrong, but we name it anyway. You know, very often we use the wrong name, but we connect it somehow. And our views, of course, grow from there, and we get into trouble through this wrong naming and so on. But that's what happens anyway. Now the question is, this name and form, naming and forming, where does it come from? How does it happen? 24. And what bhikshu is the necessary condition for name and form? It should be said consciousness. Right? We have the 6 consciousnesses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Eye consciousness, body consciousness, eye, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness. Through these consciousnesses, name and form arise. Now it comes a bit deeper now. Now it's very Buddhistic now, okay? How does consciousness arise? Where does it come from? What's the condition leading to it? 25. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for consciousness? It should be said formation, sankhara. There should be another line over the last A, no? Sankhara. No? So this karma, so in this case, it's past karma coming back into the present conditions. So there's this consciousness. And this, of course, in the Western philosophy, they call it the will to live, creates this consciousness, right? So it's, and this consciousness comes from these formations, which part of it can be understood as the will to live, if you like. The karma we create through our body action, through speech, through mental action, our thoughts. Now we come to the last one, 26. How does formations arise? The simple answer is, I don't know. We don't know, right? Answer is ignorance. 26. And what bhikshus is the necessary condition for formations? It should be said ignorance. Ignorance, bhikshus, has a necessary condition too, I say. It's not without a necessary condition. So this is where the Buddha knows the answer. Like we say, I don't know, we don't know, but the Buddha knows. And he's going to teach us. The question now is, can we understand it? That is why we need to look at the sutta. That is why we need to pay attention. That is why we need to focus in the 10 sutta class of studies. Now this is where we come to the second and closing part of the sutta. The Buddha shows how ignorance arises through dependent arising, the mundane cycle. Previously it was a supermundane. In other words, that leads to arahathood. Now we are coming back into the world. So this is how ignorance arises. Thus, bhikshus, ignorance is the necessary condition for formations. Formation are the necessary condition for consciousness. Consciousness is the necessary condition for name and form. Name and form is the necessary condition for the 6 sense spaces. The 6 sense spaces are the necessary condition for contact. Contact is the necessary condition for feeling. Another way you can read it as, from contact there arises feeling, or contact leads to Feeling is another way you can read it. Feeling is the necessary condition for craving. Feeling leads to craving. Craving is the necessary condition for clinging. Clinging is the necessary condition for existence. Existence is the necessary condition for birth. Birth is the necessary condition for suffering. No birth, no suffering, right? Suffering is the necessary condition for faith. Now, this last part is the Buddha's teaching, very special. Suffering leads to faith. It's the positive teaching. So here you notice everything is laid out again in the normal sequence by way of dependent arising. And then it goes back to the supermundane cycle. With the arising of faith, there is gladness. Faith is the necessary condition for gladness. Gladness is the necessary condition for zest. From gladness, there is zest. Zest is the necessary condition for tranquility. Tranquility is the necessary condition for happiness. Happiness is the necessary condition for concentration. Concentration is the necessary condition for knowledge and vision of true reality. When the mind is focused and concentrated, then knowledge and vision of true reality arises. Knowledge and vision of true reality are the necessary condition for revulsion. When you have this kind of wisdom, you know something's wrong out there and you don't want to get caught up with it. Revulsion is the necessary condition for dispassion. Another way of translating it is letting go. Dispassion, letting go, is the necessary condition for freedom. You want to be free, you want to let go. Freedom is the necessary condition for the knowledge of the destruction of the influxes. Arhat's knowledge. Freedom leads to awakening, arahathood. Now the Buddha goes on to give a parable of the water cycle. 27. Because just as when the rain falls in huge drops on the mountain tops, the waters flowing down along the slopes fill the mountain clefts, gullies, and streams. When the mountain clefts, gullies, and streams are full, they fill the ponds. When the ponds are full, they fill the lakes. When the lakes are full, they fill the rivulets. When the rivulets are full, they fill the rivers. When the rivers are full, they fill the great ocean, right? So the great ocean here represents nirvana, all right? In fact, this was the idea used in the Edwin Arnold's Light of Asia, this ocean of awakening. So you see here this very beautiful parable of water falling from the mountains and flowing down, and the water gathering in a mountain, flowing into bigger and bigger bodies of water and then down into the ocean. In the same way, bhikshus, ignorance is a necessary condition for formations. Formations are the necessary condition for consciousness. Consciousness is the necessary condition for name and form. Name and form is the necessary condition for the 6 sense bases. The 6 sense bases are the necessary condition for contact. Contact is the necessary condition for feeling. Where does contact is feeling? Feeling is the necessary condition for craving. So in other words, no feeling, no craving. Right? Craving is the necessary condition for clinging. Clinging is the necessary condition for existence. Existence is the necessary condition for birth. Birth is the necessary condition for suffering. Suffering is the necessary condition for faith. Right? So don't look down on suffering. Right? Suffering is our teacher. When we learn from suffering, faith arises in us, and from faith we get goodness, gladness. Dependent ending. Faith is the necessary condition for gladness. Gladness is the necessary condition for zest. Zest is the necessary condition for tranquility, inner peace. Tranquility is the necessary condition for happiness, deeper peace. No? Happiness is the necessary for concentration. The mind becomes very calm and clear and focused. Concentration is the necessary condition for knowledge and vision of true reality. Knowledge and vision of true reality are the necessary condition for revulsion. Revulsion is the necessary condition for dispassion, letting go. Dispassion is the necessary condition for freedom. Freedom is the necessary condition for the knowledge of the destruction of the influxes. Arahat awakening. Sadhu. That's the end of the sutta. So this sutta is to be read, reflected on, and you begin to see how the Buddha uses, in using simple words, show the cycle back and forth, how conditionality works in our existence. And when we understand this conditionality, we also begin to understand how to break the cycle. So that is up to you. Okay, I will stop here now. So we have about 20 minutes for questions, maybe some feedback.
Thank you, Brother Piya. I'll pass the session to Sister Isaac.
Thank you, Sister Wendy. Thank you, Brother Piya, for the Sutta teaching. The first question from Maya Opal.
Yes.
The Buddha doesn't share the necessary condition for ignorance in this sutta.
The necessary condition is the whole of the 12 links. Okay, the dependent arising, because it is rooted in ignorance. Okay. What is interesting is this. I mean, if you follow other religions that believe in God, and then if you ask why is there suffering and so on, and you say, well, you know, God is the one who did this, and can go on arguing. But when you ask, in Buddhism, you ask yourself, why is there suffering? And you answer, I don't know. That's a valid answer. And then if you ask, why do I not know? That is a tautologus already. In other words, the answer is already there. Not knowing. So there are some things you can see going on, but that's all you can do about it. In other words, of course, our mind is such that we say, oh, there must be this, there must be that, right? But those are just, we call that speculation. It just happens. That's the way things are. Okay. So look at dependent arising. It explains the nature of ignorance and what it does to us, and that is enough to know for us to deal with our life. Sometimes we get extra information, but we find it's not very useful, not very helpful, right? So this is something useful for us, in other words. And that's something that has a significant effect on us. You have to think such answers for yourself also, because I don't think I can give a satisfactory answer in this case from my own ignorance, right? And also my own understanding or lack of understanding of this. But I'm quite happy with it, because I see it, I say, okay, I understand this, I accept this, but how am I going to explain this understanding and acceptance? It's not easy, because it's my own experience. So you have to experience it in your own way, and that will give you that kind of satisfaction and peace. All right. Let's go on from there.
Thank you, Brother Piya. There's no more question in the chat box. Any brother or sister would like to ask a question, you can unmute and ask now.
Okay.
Sister Sita.
Yeah. Brother Piya,
Yes.
this paticca samuppada, you can it is through meditation that you can experience this. Everything is at the present moment and now, and it's anicca and impermanent, and you see things as they really are, and it is a very clear there in meditation.
Yeah, that is personal experience for some people, right? That's why I say, if you have personal experience, then you see it more clearly and you say, okay, I understand now, and you're happy with it. Then you live your life by that.
Yeah.
Your life is changed.
Yeah, and then
be happy because of that. Okay.
It's now and then it's also gone the minute you don't meditate.
Okay, any other questions or feedback?
Yeah, Brother Piya, there's a question from Brother LC.
Okay.
How do we relate this sutta to dependent origination? Paritaya Samupada or Paticca Samupada?
Paticca Samuppada, dependent arising. Paticca Samuppada. Pariyaya is different. Pariyaya is exposition or a way of teaching. Okay. I don't know if that's your question. Yes.
He's asking, how do we relate this sutta?
Well, this, how you relate to dependent arising, is that?
Yes.
You can see that the second cycle from ignorance, okay? So you just follow the flow, and dependent arising shows how from ignorance all those stages arise, and then ending in suffering. And then you reverse that, then you have the solution. Dependent arising is the most difficult of the teachings the Buddha has given us. If we fully understand it, we are awakened, right? So we should work with a pair first. Just take any pair, or just take one of the items and then either look the front or back, see how is it connected, and you start from there. For example, you can look at feeling. How does feeling arise? And then you reflect on that, and then slowly you build this up. Okay. If only I have the power to tell you all this right now, and then you're awakened, then we don't have to have any more classes after this. Already, we have a new year is coming, and say, oh no, I have to plan another 1 year of syllabus. Let's see what have we. So there's thousands of suttas, but we have to plan it. So ask again anyway, if you the part that you are not sure, or you want a clear answer. I will try to see how I can help you.
The next following question from Brother Maya Opal. If we want to see something and we don't see it, there's a feeling of suffering. How is that feeling of suffering based on contact? I'm trying to understand this better.
Try to simplify your question a bit. Bayang, can try.
Brother Maya, can you please unmute?
Oh, sound.
Sorry, let me just change my position. My connection is.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Is my voice audible?
Okay, it's better now. Yeah.
Okay. So I was trying to relate it with an example. Let's say if I want to see a person, I want to meet a person, and due to whatever reasons, I don't see that person. So let's say I feel miserable or I pine for that person.
You mean you're not able to meet that person? that
Yes.
what you mean? Okay. Oh yeah.
So I suffer.
Yes.
So how is that feeling of suffering? It's a feeling. So how is that, right? So how is that feeling based on contact?
Oh, this contact is not just. There are 6 kinds of contact. You know, when you see something, that's called visual contact. You hear something, that's called. Technically, in the Indian language, it's called ear contact. But here, the ear is not the physical ear; it is the faculty. So in English, we say, you know, sound contact, you know, or sonic contact, if you like. And then smell is the Pali, they use the word very interesting one, nose contact, but don't take it literally. The technical name is olfactory contact, contact to smell. So here the contact is just in a bit of a technical scientific way, meaning the sense faculty has a sense object and there is consciousness. And so there is contact. So here we have this vision of this person that we like, and we think of this person. And then we don't get that vision. So we suffer as a result. So we should tell ourselves, well, that person is not here. So we have to accept that. That's the reality, right? So if you are calm, you see, that's the reality. So even if you feel sad, it won't change that reality. Now, the Buddha has one advice that the Buddha said, in such a situation, ask yourself, what shall I do now, right? So you ask yourself, what do you want to do now? So logically, you will contact this person or message and so on, right? And somehow just accept that situation. And then do other things, make other friends, find something useful to do and so on. So that's how we direct our mind to something positive. Of course, a monk will have his own way, a monk will meditate and so on, but for lay people like us, we can go for walks, have a hobby, do something positive. Well, we all face this situation as we age. Right? When you're young, you have lots of friends, more people than you can handle. But as you age, first thing you notice more and more of your friends disappearing, dying. Yeah? And yet the younger people do not know you, or they have their own lives. So you see less and less of them, and you become more and more lonely yourself. In a sense, it's where marriage comes in. I mean, a happy marriage. So you have a married couple who are happy to each other, or kind to each other. That's wonderful, right? And maybe the children you've loved the children and they love you back in return. So you have all this contact. Another way is to make friends with neighbors, talk to people, right? You find, some friends I have, they say in Singapore, it's not easy to talk to people. Of course, if you are rich and successful, you can easily talk to people, but it's very difficult if you are pure ordinary. You can't talk to people. But when they go overseas, they find they say, oh, it's so easy to talk to people. So this is one habit we should cultivate. Learn to talk to people, be kind to them, right? And you find if you do talk to people, you find they will be kind to you too. Something happened the other day, very interesting, very funny thing. One of the funny things happens in our flat is that the flat upstairs, they hang their washing, and often it drops and get caught in our dryer outside. So usually they come down and collect it. But this time there's a nice pair of jeans caught there. It's over a day already. So we took it off the dryer. And I told myself, okay, there are only 3 possibilities. There are 3 more floors upstairs, you see. We're on 8th floor, so 9, 10, 11. Okay, so it can only be 1 or 3 floors upstairs. So we went one by one each floor. We say, did you drop this? Floor number 9? They look at it and say, no, we didn't. I said, no, that's curious. I asked myself, then we go to floor number 10. And yeah, 10. Floor 10, the door is open, but there's a grill there. And I said, hello, and nobody answered the door. Then I saw a wheelchair there. I just peered inside a bit. There's an old lady sitting there, and she just waved me away because she probably thought I was selling trousers, I think. So I said, no. She kind of, waved her hand. I suppose there's no one there wearing the trousers. Then I went to the 11th floor. That's the highest floor. And that door is closed. So I keep on knocking and nobody answered for a while. Then the house before that, the windows open, the windows always open, it seems. And this young person, very kind looking, he comes up to the window, he says, oh, I don't think there's anybody home now. They're probably foreign workers renting the house. And I say, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. Those are very kind words. See? So I said, oh, thank you very much. You can tell this your neighbor if they lost a pair of trousers, just go down to the 8th floor and get it from us. All right. So you find, I feel very happy when there are people like that who communicate and say, is there anything I can do? Can I help you? So that's how we live together and age gracefully. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Brother Piya. Yeah, can I read a question from Sister right now?
Okay.
Can you please explain the difference between craving and existence? Thank you, Piya.
Craving and existence. Oh, that's one jump, huh? Craving is this wanting this, wanting that, you see. Existence sometimes includes wanting to be this, wanting to be that, and over-ambitiousness. So it's also a kind of craving, right? Craving in the sense of wanting a particular state, which is non-physical, right? So craving can be non-physical too, and that also can hinder us and take away and prevent our happiness. That's one way of putting it. Yeah? So craving is not just for material things. It can also be for certain conditions and states. I want to be famous. I want to be powerful. I want to be rich. I want to be popular, whatever, right? And then we get ourselves into a lot of trouble with that. Yeah? Now I'm writing a very important essay now. I'm looking at how the different scholars study in their own way, the anthropologists, the Buddhologists, historians, and so on. So you find some scholars, they attack other systems. They say, oh, these systems are wrong, and so on. But when I look at all these different systems of studying Buddhism, I say, oh, they're already very helpful. There are different ways of looking at Buddhism. So in other words, here, different scholars, for some strange reason, they have this state that they want to have or to protect. They want to be famous, or they want to be with famous scholars so that they become famous and wealthy and so on. But there are also scholars who make friends, who are friendly, who are kind, who reply when you write to them, for papers, and who even, allow you to meet them, right? So you find for them, they're happy just the way they are. So to be happy just the way we are and be kind to others is a great blessing. It's a very Buddhist thing. In other words, you're a friend to all. Sabba mita, we say, a friend to all, right? So that's a very great way of teaching Buddhism, showing an example of being a happy Buddhist. All right, it's exactly 10 now. Any last minute questions?
Yeah, Brother Piya, there's two more questions.
Oh, sure, okay.
From Brother LCO.
Mm-hmm.
By this sutta on dependent arising and dependent ending by the flow chart, it seemed very clear. But in general lay Buddhists, how are we to process our daily life, second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, and so on.
Wow.
We just practice to remember the process, or do we comprehend as a whole and not to subject to the process step by step? Is there a comprehensive approach to keep ourselves abreast of the arising and ending?
The comprehensive approach is to renounce the world. That's the best way. My favorite answer here is what's called your time alone. Use solitary time for yourself, and then use that time to reflect day by day, if you like, or once a week, or occasionally when you feel like it, or when the occasion arises, right? Sometimes you feel upset with someone and then you reflect, okay, what happened here, right? So that's how you learn. So you learn when things happen. There is an experience. There is contact. You examine that contact. You start there. The Buddha explains everything, so we begin to see how we experience things in a bigger context, in other words, right? So we don't have to see it like that all the time, but you notice there are key moments in your life when you have to apply, when you can apply that teaching. That's when you do it. So remember those moments. And this moment is called suffering. When suffering arises, learn from it. That is the simple one-line summary. What's the next question? So there are 2 questions.
Yes, we have the last question from Woody.
Okay.
Neutral feeling is one of the diversity of feelings. How does it give rise to craving?
True, what feeling? Sorry?
Neutral feeling.
Oh, neutral feeling. Yeah.
It's one of the diversity of feelings.
Yes, very true. Now we have 3 feelings, 3 kinds of feelings, right? If you perceive something as pleasant, in other words, you have good memory in the past, you want it. If you have bad memories of it in the past, you let go of it. But if you have no memory of it, no knowledge, you don't know what it is, you don't know what to do with it. And then you feel bored, you feel upset, you might even get angry with it. So it depends how people feel bored, how they react to it. This happens especially in meditation. So in meditation, for example, when we experience we get distracted by something we like, right? Or we also can get distracted by something we don't like. But what about something neutral? We also can get distracted by it. That is why we need to learn the suttas. So these problems arising from the neutral feeling is resolved by knowledge, wisdom. When we learn what happens in meditation. You know, for some people, when they meditate, for example, when the breath seems to stop, and they get very scared, they say, oh dear, am I going to die? I can't breathe. But then if they learn meditation, they have a good teacher, the teacher will tell them, oh, you know, there comes a point where your breath is so calm, you don't notice it. And that's the way it is, right? So although it's a neutral feeling, they don't feel anything there. They are calm, they're happy, because they understand. So with knowledge and wisdom corrects this wrong reaction to this neutral feeling, right? So neutral feeling should be understood also as being impermanent. It will go away soon. That's a good question. I'm happy you asked that. Huh? Okay. So any last minute questions?
Thank you, Brother Piya.
That's all. Huh? Yeah. Okay, Maya. Yes.
Okay. I wanted to ask on my previous example itself. So that craving leads to suffering, right? Craving and then clinging, independent origination. So craving leads to suffering. So taking the same example where we want to see that person and that person still exists in the world. Okay, the person is not dead, for example. So one craving is to see the person itself. So if we let go of that craving, then also suffering will stop. Or other craving is, let's say, because the person still exists, but we are not able to contact the person through message call or whatever, say through because of some negative emotions like fear or shame or guilt or something like that. So, like, which craving to let go in that situation? The craving to see the person itself, or the craving which I don't know which one it is, but which is generating the negative emotions, because of
Right.
which you're not able to take positive action. So yeah.
Well, what you have there is a negative object in the mind. That object is not the person. It is your image of that person that is troubling you. The person is not troubling you. The person is very far away. It's your image of that person that's troubling you. So you should correct that image, right? By using loving kindness. That's one way. You can use vipassana also, if you like, by saying it's all mind-made. So there are two ways you can approach this problem. The simple way is it's just a thought. Okay, now I'm letting go of this thought. Or use displacement, the Vitakasantana Sutta, right? You think some other positive things, meet someone happy or do something happy right now, and you find you feel happy. The second method is loving kindness. When this image arises, when this idea arises, you just send your loving kindness to this person. What you're doing is you are clearing up this negative image through your loving kindness. So, yes?
No, I was saying, why is the image negative? I didn't get that part.
Sorry?
I didn't understand that part. Like, why is the image negative? Like when you
Your picture of that person is what is causing you suffering, not the person. It's your image, the image of the person. You see my point? The image of the person you have in your mind of that person. I want to meet this person, right? Well, because you don't know what has happened to this person anyway. Maybe the person doesn't want to meet you. Maybe the person is dead. Maybe the person is in great difficulty and cannot meet anyone. We can never know all these things, right? So what I'm saying is this image is what you must deal with. So you deal with the image. And when you do meet the person, be happy with the person. When you don't meet with the person, you're also happy with the person, right? So take it like that, right? Sometimes I wish some of my friends would meet me. So then I notice, oh, his birthday is coming. So I send a nice greeting, say, how are you? And this person says, okay, I will come and see you, I'll bring you out for lunch and so on. And 3 months later, he still has not done it. And then 3 months later, you'll say, how are you? And I say, oh, that's nice. I want to see you. I want to bring you out for lunch. Another 3 months passes. So I will laugh at this. I'll say, okay, this is the 3 months person. So it's okay. At least he has got a good intention, but he doesn't know he's repeating himself. So that's how we accept people. We know how they are, and then we accept them as they are, and we just let it be. It could be us. Sometimes we might be the one, and the roles could be reversed. Is it right? So there are many ways you can imagine this. So basically, just send your positive thoughts to this image, clear it up, and then you find you have a lot to do by yourself. And for myself, I wish I had more time to sit here and do my essay, which is very interesting, all these ideas I'm putting together. But I find talking to you in this sutta is so meaningful, because I know you love the suttas, and that's what keeps us together. And that is a wonderful friendship we share. Another wonderful friendship are the proofreaders. And these proofreaders are reading the proofs which are sent to them. That means they're appreciating what I'm writing, and then they come back with all the corrections. So it's a wonderful communication. Although we don't meet each other, but we meet on a mental level. We share our ideas on paper. Isn't that amazing? So that's one way of looking at things. And then you do your daily routine of your exercise or cooking or your work, whatever. Find something useful to do and learn to make others happy. Then you will not crave for happiness. You don't need it because you already have it. All right, on that happy note, I'll end for today. And then we have another lesson coming soon. So I'm very happy to see you all. And Rana's taking photo now, are you?
Yes, please turn on your videos.
Okay, videos on. Happy faces. See. Well, good to see you all. In 2 more weeks, we will meet again and study another sutta. Okay. Okay, are you done right now?
Okay, smile, please.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Okay. All right, 10 more years, look at these video photos again. Huh? You see, you should have changed, all right? All right. So now's the time for us to remember this wonderful moment again.
Nice to see you,
Wait,
Yeah.
wait.
Piya and
Hold on,
Sister.
hold
Wait,
on.
no,
We need
yeah.
the
Closing
conclusion.
reflection first. Closing reflection, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Oh, the video got stuck, huh? Okay. We have once again gathered together. We have recited the 3 refuges, not kept the 5 precepts, and done our meditation. Listen to the dhamma and also discuss things, ask questions. Remember this wonderful moment. These are good karma you have done, but about all these good things you have done today, may you be well, may we be well and happy. Send your kind thoughts to people who are important to you wherever they are, even if you have difficulty meeting them. Wish them well, wish them happy, and you'll be surprised at the result. So send your thoughts to those special people. And even people who you have difficulties with, send those kind thoughts to them. Think of them happily. Think of those people happily, and that will make you happy. And think of the Buddha, because of whom we are gathered here and we are able to learn so many wonderful new things. And with that, we bow down in respect and gratitude to the 3 jewels. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Bow down to the Dhamma. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Bow down to the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.